Hello and welcome everybody. It is 10:30 on a Wednesday night. I had to remember what day it was then. That can mean only one thing. It is time again for Untold Chronicles, and this time it is chapter 3 of The Dredges as we find ourselves travelling to the far north of Europa. Let us see whether our technology is working. And this is always good. So, first of all, a big hello, welcome, and thank you to all of our viewers. And if you are watching on catch up on Twitch, VOD, or YouTube, hello to you as well. We don't mind when you watch, just as long as you watch, and hopefully you will enjoy it all. I'm going to say a big hello and welcome to all our players as well. We'll do some quick introductions now. So, DeFago, hello and welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, so I play DeFago and my name's Michael.
Hello. Welcome back. Then we move to Pectinus.
Hello, I play Pectinus Fruit.
I didn't get that. I'm not sure anybody else did. It was a bit robotic.
Oh, okay. I said, hello, I'm Tom, and I play Pectinus Fruit.
Perfect. That was crystal clear
Better
that time. Crystal clear that time. Absolutely. And without further ado, we move across to Clyde.
Hello, I'm Barry, and I'll be playing Clyde.
Hello, Barry. And David, are you back?
I am back.
Yeah, who are you?
I'm Jerry. I'm Jeb's house on Discord and on Twitch, and I'm playing David today.
Excellent. Welcome, 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 players. Before we get to the catch up and the plot, we have another thank you to do. I shall switch to this first. I mean, a big sort of thank you as we usually do. Everybody should be used to this now. A big thank you to Hero Forge for giving us permission to use their wonderful images from their website. Many of the character images are designed using Hero Forge, a wonderful way to create your own custom miniatures, get them 3D printed. You can find them at www.heroforge.com. Please note anything mentioned on the stream may not represent the view or beliefs of Hero Forge, a Sky Castle Studios LLC product. And as I always say, check them out. Super good. The customization is unbelievable. So, without further ado, though, I say this all of the time, we only have a scant hour and a half for each of these Untold Chronicles sessions, so we like to get going as soon as we can. So, previously on The Dredges, on questioning by Dorvid and Pectinus, Verla Christie was unable to shed any light on the murder itself, the one that she were accused of murdering her husband. On the morning in question, she arose before her husband to prepare breakfast and ready the forge. On hearing a horrible gurgling noise from the house, she rushed back to find her husband dead. Distraught, she stumbled into the street barefoot and still in her bedclothes, crying for help. Hope being hope, she was mostly ignored until the marshal arrived, still in the grip of his previous night cups. Taken aback inside, he immediately decided she had gone mad and killed her husband. She was arrested, somewhat gleefully, by the deputies. She begged the two clerics, that is our protagonists, to look after Elwood, her son, when the inevitable happened to her. Probing her further on recent events, our adventurers discovered that Verla had recently been in the receipt of some unwanted advances from Maurice Hagen, the stable master. When Verla rebutted his advances, he got very angry, though at the time she thought little of it. Nor did she tell her husband. Our intrepid sleuth sought out the stables and after a chat with an enterprising and now slightly wealthier stable hand, discovered where Maurice Hagen bedded down, and also that he was not currently at home. On hearing movement upstairs, Clyde bravely brought this to the attention of the halfling clerics and sent them up first, where the party came face to innards with a couple of undead husks, jelly-like, boneless human bodies. One was blew apart with divine light at the hands of Dorvid, whilst Pectinus charged in literally and then smashed his way out with holy fire. Meanwhile, Defargo had a flashback to wild winter presence of old as Clyde covered the rear. Thorough search of the loft area uncovered what appeared to be paraphernalia relating to some unknown cult. There was an alabaster mask, a expensive-looking black-hooded robe, candle, censers, incense, sacks, tinderbox. Defago also uncovered tracks suggesting that Hagen had headed into the woods at speed. What now? With the corpses and cultist gear, our heroes can potentially prove Erla's innocence, but as Defago pointed out through adept use of imagery, back daggers, they don't know who to trust, who is a cultist and who isn't. Or do they follow Maurice Hagen in the hopes of bringing him to justice before he can alert his fellow cultists? And where are those skeletons that the husks were missing? Hopefully some of these questions, if not all of them, will be uncovered tonight. Without further ado, you are standing looking at the evidence at the moment, deciding what to do. And this is where we open up this scene. Over to you.
So, do we have any idea how likely it is before Verla is tried?
Justice moves either very slowly round here or very rapidly if a mob can be rallied together. So it's very unpredictable. You think you've probably got a little bit of time. If a mob was going to form, it would have already done so. But you know the tracks will only last so long. The weather is wet, terrible here. Few more hours, they might be washed away. Some of them might already have been done so. So it just very much depends on what you would prefer to do.
Let's move on then.
Where to? We, as I see it, we have 4 choices. Option 1, we go and speak to Taylor Raycroft, convince him Verla's innocent, and then we have someone else looking out for her while we investigate further. Maybe we check his trustworthiness with some use of that mask we found. Option 2, we go to the deputy. He seemed fairly sincere, and we're reasonably sure he's not part of this cult. We convince him that Verla is innocent to much of a similar purpose. Option 3, we follow Hagen and we bring him in, maybe find out what we can from him about the cult. And then there's option 4, and Pectinus will look at Clyde uncertainly as he says this, which I'm going to just call prison break. I think that should be held back for a last resort option.
Yeah, I agree. I think Defago agrees as well.
Oh yeah.
So we've narrowed it down to 3, but in itself, that's not.
I think I'd rather speak to Taylor than the deputy,
But
purely on a reliability standpoint.
how do we feel about following the tracks? Because obviously that's sort of a now or we dispense with it altogether.
Deal me in.
I'm happy to go with what the group thinks is best. I personally I'm mostly worried about Verla, but if we don't think that it's going to, if we think we have the time, then perhaps following the tracks is best.
Perhaps we could ask for an extension on the deputies.
Well, I mean, I have ensured that they will come to us before whatever the result of her trial is carried out. So at the very least, we have a stalling mechanism. If she is found guilty, we have an opportunity to try and get her out of it.
Is it still relatively early in the day?
It is. You've not wasted any real time at all at the moment. You've been very rapid. You think you have some time. You don't think, like I said, in cases of lynch mobs, it would have already happened. I mean, you can give me insight rolls if you want. This is just kind of indicating the nature. You don't have to. And don't forget that there can be negative rolls as well. If you don't feel that you are insightful, don't feel you need to roll it. It's 2 very good rolls and a not so good roll, but not a critical fail. David, your mind is racing, and yeah, there's something going on here. The reason why there doesn't seem to be a degree of urgency. You're not overly worried too much that she's just going to be executed, sort of hung or burnt, or sent out into the wild, or maybe even condemned to the stank. But with that role, you think there might be a reason, almost as if she could be used as a scapegoat. There are forces that are moving behind the scenes to make that happen, just as you are trying to prevent such a thing. Maybe it's just your paranoia.
I think if they was going to execute poor woman, they would have done it by now. Methinks that maybe if there are ulterior motives at play, she may be used as a scapegoat. Whilst I don't think she's going to be executed right away, I do believe time is of the essence, and if our dear Clyde and DeFago are confident in tracking her, then I'm more than happy to accompany.
All right. Then I say let's do that.
Can I suggest that we take all our evidence with us and stash it somewhere? I presume these husk bodies
Absolutely.
aren't the easiest thing to carry around, shall I say?
No, I mean, they're quite flexible. They will. It's a gristly job, don't get me wrong, but they will roll and fold. There's literally no bone. One of the reasons why they didn't overly do any sort of damage to you is because they're quite soft, It's when they vacuum pack around you and begin to suffocate you that the damage is truly done, and the true horror of that claustrophobic suffocation is terrifying to behold. But you will relatively easily be able to move them about.
Yes, I think it's a good idea. We should put them somewhere where we'll be able to find them, but where no one's going to tidy them away conveniently.
Defargo points at the skins that we've collected, and then points at the skins that he wears, and you know that that's his job, is hunting and preparing skins for sale. He points over in the direction of where his hut is.
Mm.
Excellent idea.
You think they'll be safe there, DeFargo?
Hell yeah.
Well, that's good enough for me. So if
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so you take all the items. Did you actually transfer the items from the party sheet last time onto your character sheets, or have you still yet to do that?
I don't think we took anything.
Okay, so let us sort that out first for you, so that we can gather that together. It will take but a moment to sort it out when my fancy ground starts responding. And you're going to sort of transfer them across to DeFago's hut, and then are you going to try and pick up this trail? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
could I keep the gown and the mask with me?
Well, you can certainly do this, because if you now go and look at the party sheet, so at the top right, you can click on that. All the items that you uncovered are there. If you open up your character sheets and go to your inventory, you'll be able to drag the items across, the ones that you want to keep. It is important that you take the things that you want, because if you leave anything behind, it is assumed that someone else might well pick them up. So yeah, well done. So Clyde, you've taken the alabaster mask and the black-robed hood. If anybody else wants anything, grab it from the party sheet. Otherwise, it will be
Yeah,
gone.
I'll grab some.
Yeah, David, do you want any of the of these ritual items?
Yeah, I'll take some of these.
Okay.
May as well put them to some good use.
I would say if we maybe keep all of that with us anyway, because it's all quite easy to take along, and it is at least some of our evidence.
Absolutely.
And obviously, potentially, we may need a cultist disguise going forward, possibly.
So
Well,
yeah,
before I hug them all, does anyone want a candle?
Sure, I'll take a candle.
Sure. Incense, I'll take one then. And the tinderbox, they're always useful. Unless, Digger, maybe you can make use of it.
there is only a sack remaining. Does anybody want that? No, it has gone. So
Oh.
you take all the items from this place. It is gone. They are safely in your inventory. You walk across town through the very muddy streets of Hope. DeFago, or rather Michael, because it's better that Michael describes your house than DeFago. Do you want to describe what your shack is like?
Yeah, it's probably only got maybe 2 or 3 rooms in there. There is, I mean, What are the toilet arrangements in the dredges, Andy?
There's
Do we
no
have outside?
Yeah, there's no sewer systems. There are outside privies and latrines, both public and sort of personal, with sometimes a hut around them if you're lucky. Other times you just go to the outskirts of the wood and there's a communal trench. It's rough and ready.
So his shack, it's fairly well maintained, and as you get closer to it, you can see there's lots of stones and maybe bits of glass or just interesting thing that seems to have been affixed to the outside, with, well, you don't want to really speculate upon what the adhesive might be. Outside there are some racks upon which you might hang or stretch leather as it dries. But Defaga will sort of take you around the side and point you towards what looks like a small side building which smells awful. Because Michael has been to the Nottingham Caves and Michael knows how leather is prepared. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so it's quite close to the privy,
Yep.
and that's where he's intending hiding the skins.
Absolutely. Urine is a great substance for processing tanning and the like. Yeah, so this is where you're going to hide them amongst, and it's perfect, really. I mean, if you've destroyed the animate within them, then I mean, they could possibly be recognized as humanoid, but amongst all of your other furs, it's a perfect place to hide them. Absolutely. So, with that done fairly rapidly, the choice is yours. I believe you've made your decision and you want to try and carry on following the trail of Morris Hagen. So, how are you intending to do this?
Well, Defaga was intending following the tracks that he saw before.
Yeah, it's
That's
more,
best.
is it just you yourself going forward? Is anybody helping you? Are you receiving any divine guidance as we do this? This is a skill challenge. It's not just a single roll. Very similar to the way that we've done some of these before. You're going to need 3 successes before you get 3 fails. You can, though, use similar skills should you wish to, or you can become creative. And if you think if there's anything that you've got or anything you think you can use to help the situation, I'm very keen cinematically to see how this plays out.
Andy.
Yep.
My the type of halfling the Dorvid is a lotus-skin halfling. So they have a sort of halfling feat called Timberwalk,
Yep.
which makes it difficult to more difficult to track him, and he's moving across difficult terrain made of non-magical plants and undergrowth. Like he doesn't have to expend any extra movement. Would I like a bit of a push for, like, say, if we're going through the forest, would be able to help the figure in like some of his tracking with that, in case like to avoid any maybe avoid any like difficult terrain or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly help movement through the woods, and you are aware of how to hide your tracks, so you could potentially flip this to help with someone actually tracking. I like that. So you're also
Yeah, Andy.
yeah.
I have no proficiency in survival,
Yeah.
but I do have a very high perception. So could I just maybe point out any disturbed areas or broken stems and the like? to
Absolutely.
Defargo in case he misses them.
Absolutely. So let's break this down. Who wants to go first in terms of doing this? Do you want to start perceiving, or do you want to pick up the trail first? Does Defargo want to do a survival roll?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
happy to do that.
So let us start with Defargo. Now, because Dorvid is helping you, it's not going to give you advantage, but what it's going to do is it's going to lower the DC because it becomes less difficult for you to do what you're doing with the skill of Dorvid. So slightly more stronger than just advantage, as it gives you an easier time to try and pick up this trail.
Okay. Fingers crossed. I think I'd like to be inspired, if that's all right, Andy.
Okay.
Use your inspiration.
Yeah, I
Yes.
gave you inspiration from
Oh,
before,
yeah.
absolutely, and use it.
Oh,
I can confirm that would be a fail. Not a critical, but definitely a fail. So use that inspiration. It will be a D6 at this level.
So I'll just throw that in.
Yeah, wow, that's turning the frown upside down. Absolutely. That makes it a 15. And describe to me how you initially make a mistake or not pick it up, and then for some reason you find your way onto the correct path.
So who was helping with that one?
Dorvid was helping you with his kind of ancestral abilities.
Got you. So Defargo will sort of crouch down, probably quite near to where we first picked up the trail, just outside the barn, and will be looking at the ground when his eyes he seems distracted, and he stops looking at the ground, and he seems to have his attention caught by what appears to be a small group of birds that are beginning to fly in a pattern near to him, and he seems a little bit distracted of this, but probably having had sort of pointing out that he needs to keep his mind on the job by Dorvid, he sort of shakes his head to clear whatever that was. They seem to disappear, and he gets back on with the job in hand, and looks to see where he might see boot prints in the mud.
Yeah, perfect. And you do. You pick up the trail again. It is concerning. It has been raining, and quite a lot of the trail has been washed away. The good news, though, is it looked like he was moving at speed, and he's taken no actions to conceal his trail. So you're combating really the elements rather than his ability to disguise what he's doing. And you begin to move into the forest that surrounds Hope. Now, moving to you, Clyde, you volunteered perception for the next skill check. You've got one success at the moment, no fails. Again, if describe to me what you are doing, how this is going to play out cinematically.
Well, I've been paying close attention to what specifically Defargo and Dorvid have been looking for. So I'm just going to scan ahead of them, because obviously I don't want to see anything that they've turned over.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to look for, say, broken stems and the like that show somebody's passage, or churned up bits of ground in areas we haven't reached yet.
Perfect. You know he's been travelling at speed. You've uncovered that information, and any kind of signs, not necessarily of tracks in the mud, but broken branches, snagged cloth, the like, could really help you out here. Let's see how well this goes, though. Give me that perception roll.
Quite well.
Very.
oh,
That's.
nice.
We are using critical successes here, and that not only beats the DC by 10, but is also a natural 20, which is a critical success. And that means
So I'll say, well, I mean, it's quite easy, this tracking arc, isn't it? Look, he obviously went that way through there.
And you do see that part of his woolen jerkin had caught, and it's actually left a trail amongst all of the things guiding you in. That counts as a double success. So you went from 1 success to 3 successes, which is all you need. Well, that's super impressive. Okay, and you begin to make your way around, and it's really odd because it, in one instance, looked like he was heading deep into the woods. But after a while, he turns round and he's heading around the outskirts of Hope. And then you basically see that it looks very much like he's entered the outskirts of the land of the Boyd's estate, not actually into their gardens, but what is considered their property. You see that there's a number of warning stakes banged into the ground with the words "Keep out, private property, the Boyds." Quite clear warnings, and he's most definitely gone in there. But with your critical success, you've uncovered something else. In these woods on the outskirts or just within the borders of the Boyd's estate, you can kind of see a small, almost shack, although it's not quite as high as a shack. You probably would describe it more like some kind of bunker or storm cellar. And it's fairly obvious with your success there that he's headed into there.
I will point this out, and I shall remind everybody who Mayor Boyd is, and that we maybe want to keep under the radar at this point.
Hell yeah.
Yes, good idea. Should we have a look at this shack?
Hell yeah.
Defargo looks at you like you've just breached copyright.
You'll all be saying that very soon. That'll just be the standard phrase. It's addictive. It is up to you. There are trees here. This thing is most definitely across the border into the land of the Boyds. Probably only by about 100 feet or so, but it is in the forest as well. You can't at the moment see anybody else about. And as I say, it's less of a shack and more of a storm cellar. It's standing maybe only about 4 foot high, a pair of double doors. But with your success, it's obvious this is where he's gone into.
Can I just check around the boundary that there's no traps or tripwires as we go onto the Boyd property, and keep my eyes open as we head towards the door, and suggest maybe we go more stealthily from this point forwards?
Absolutely. There's a lot to break down there. So the first thing I'm going to ask for, unfortunately, is not a perception. For checking for traps and the like is an investigation roll. So give me one of those, please.
Fair enough.
And
Yeah, I'm not as good at that.
You're still very good, and not quite a critical success, but a very strong success, and that's all you needed. You rapidly uncover a number of traps. There are at least 2 bear traps, horrible looking clamps that if something put their foot in, it would not just break the leg, but almost rip a leg off. And this most definitely within the area of the estate. There are a couple of other things as well, snares and the like, all designed and all hidden. These are not obvious things to deter people. These are designed to maim or kill.
I'll hold my hand up, and just to annoy Defargo further, I'll make a sound of a trap clashing shut and point a couple of them out.
They become fairly apparent to see once they are pointed out. You can see that. Fortunately, you haven't got a distance to go. It's only about 100 feet to get to this storm cellar of sorts. You can give me some stealth rolls now if that's what you want to do. Creep up upon this thing. Well, let's hope there's no one on guard or listening out, as it is apparent to you that you're making a degree of noise. It's these woods. There's wood on the thing, and you don't really want to be putting your feet where you can't see. So it's squelchy mud. You're checking. You're moving quietly and slowly. But you get to your destination without setting any of these traps off, which at least is a positive. You don't know how quiet you've actually been, though. There are, like I said, it rises up maybe about 4 foot, and there are a double set of doors. They don't appear to be locked, certainly from this side. There's no chains on them or anything else, but they're fairly solid.
Can I suggest that everybody stands back a ways, and I'll try and turn one of the handles and pull with Mage Hand?
Okay. Mage Hand's strong enough to open this door, and it's kind of made of wood and metal, and the elements have got to it. And as you turn the handle, there's a little bit of squeaking, and as you begin to lift this quite heavy door, it begins to sort of squeak. The hinges could do with a good oil. It's opening. It's no difficult to open, but it's just the elements have got to it, and various bits of it are now in various states of being rusted.
I think then I'll open it the minimum distance we need to be able to get through it, and then just keep it there.
Okay, as you sort of peer through the gap, first of all, you see that there is initially a ladder that descends down. The ladder goes down maybe about 10 feet, and it stops on a wooden landing. And from there, you see steps going down, and there's no roll needed. You can obviously see light, the flickering of torches, and you can hear conversations going on. In common, there seems to be discussion about they want more money. This guard duty is boring. It's about all you can sort of pick up at the moment. It sounds very much like there is a set of guards down there. They are talking quietly amongst themselves.
I think we should maybe withdraw a bit and have a whispered conversation.
Okay. You didn't open the door very far, you drop it down. The difficulty is that, I mean, you could withdraw 100 feet out of there. You kind of know roughly a safe way to travel now. So you withdraw a distance, and what conversation do you want to have?
did we get any impression of numbers?
Again, anyone who was listening is more than welcome to give me a perception roll. But as I say, only roll if you think you are perceptive, because you can fail these rolls. Very good, yeah. Between the three of you, you reckon that there was no more than 4 people. It wasn't a loud conversation. It didn't sound like they were moving around. You heard the creaking of chairs, the occasional sound of maybe a tankard being moved around, and the slurping. It sounds like they're not on huge alert, but they're there kind of in case anybody comes in that shouldn't be coming in, no doubt. The question is why in the middle of nowhere at the back end of the Boyd's estate does this exist? So I think you wanted to talk, did you not?
Yeah, I think we need to have a conversation. We're about to overstep a line. In order to go any further, we're probably going to at least knock these guys unconscious and quite possibly kill them. And I'm very aware that we're on the Boyd's land, and I can't believe anything would be happening on the Boyd's land without the Boyd's knowing.
Agreed. I am not sure we should proceed.
Well, can you tell us about the Boyd?
Basically, Mayor Boyd runs the town. I mean, not only is he in charge of all the legal stuff, he pretty much runs all the illegal stuff as well. And I would say that if Boyd is involved, then Furler's had it. Even if we go back with evidence, I really don't think it'll make much of a difference unless we can get the whole town on side.
Hmm.
Prison Break not seeming so crazy anymore.
Oh no.
We basically need to decide whether we're going to go ahead or not, I think. And if so, how are we going to go about it? Or then, of course, there's plan B, where we take all our evidence to the jail and hope we can get out with Verla before too much of this gets back to Boyd, assuming he is involved. DeFargo, what do you think?
He looks over to the shack and makes a fairly good imitation of the cries of the child who you first saw, and then the weeping of the woman in the prison, and points with one of his short swords at the shack. Then, in a voice that is some of the things he says is clearly not is from the same person, and this is an older male person. His hell yeah comes from there, and a couple of the other ones as well, but this one definitely comes from the same location. Sometimes things just need killing.
To be honest, I'm very much with him. I've had about as much of hope as I could manage, and if we have to move on, we have to move on. And I think if you two want to save Verla, I think we're gonna have to cross Boyd.
Oh, I've been one to let a bully have his way for too long. I say you, Pectinus.
Pectinus looks somewhat out of his depth at this point, but he will say, "If you think this is the way to save her, I'll go with you. But I do have one concern. If we go in there and attack the guards who probably know nothing of what we're actually trying to stop, and we don't succeed, Verla will die. Would it not be wiser for us to try and get Verla out than exposing our hand, as it were, trying to get to this stable master?
Might it be worth speaking to one of these gods, maybe trying to throw one of them out with a sound or something?
It could be. I'm not saying we don't do it. I'm just saying, at the moment, the Boyds and everyone else involved don't know that we have any suspicions. Maybe we need to decide where we use our element of surprise.
I suppose this is true. We know this place now exists. And there is, as DeFargo stated previously, though, an issue of who we can trust. But maybe we do want to try and get Verla freed and away from here before we do anything more precipitous.
DeFargo will pointedly count that there are 4 of us. He will then do very rapid and quite disconcerting, brief, babbled impressions of as many people as he can think of that populate the entire of Hope, and then make a very quiet alarm sound like a clang.
And he has a very good point. I mean, taking any evidence in could just end up with us in jail as well.
There may be many people in Hope, but there are only 3 people in the marshal's office. If they try to take us, that's when we should make our stand.
DeFargo shrugs and makes a gentle clanging sound.
But perhaps we're being too ambitious? Should we not try and get someone else on our side first, in case we fail?
But again, who do we trust? How do we know who to get on side? We may just end up tipping someone else off rather than just going straight to the marshal and his deputies.
Can you, Clyde, and you, DeFargo, give me history rolls, please?
If we have to.
Oh, it looks like I know all the history. Brilliant.
You certainly know all the history that I don't.
Yeah. Okay, because this is kind of a forced roll. There's no repercussions to it, but the 21 is really good. As you're having this conversation, this is where myself, as the GM or storyteller, kind of fills in some spaces that you just don't know because I've not told you. Who can you trust? It is a very difficult question. In Hope, perhaps nobody. But Hope, the Boyds have a long running issue with the people in charge of Paradise. It is a week away, and I'm not saying that they are any better than the Boyds in many ways, but if you were looking for someone who potentially was not siding with the Boyds at all, then the person who is in charge of Paradise is an individual called Cassie Kane. And it is a week away, though.
We might not have a week, though.
It is very much swapping, one devil for another. But those are choices, really. There is an animosity and aggression between the two of them. They're both competing in the same sort of areas. And one of the big problems is that the only real way out of the dredges south is through hope. And Cassie is not happy with that. I'm not saying you need to do anything with it. I'm just letting you know the information that you know. Very much a case of my enemy of my enemy.
Oh, very much so.
So we have very straightforward decision. Either we go in after the guards, or we take what evidence we have and either stop at somewhere you think you can trust someone, or just go straight to the marshal's office. Maybe at least try and blag Verla out until she's up for trial, and then decamp with her and the boy.
And maybe bring them over to Paradise.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, like, if we're able to blag Bella out, will would they be safe in town, or will we have to accompany them to nearby settlement?
To be honest, if we get them, we're back in the same situation, aren't we? Who do we trust to leave them with other than ourselves?
Yeah.
Yes, I was thinking if we get Verla out, we'd have to leave town. We'll be making our way somewhere else. We could travel to Paradise if you think that they at least won't immediately turn her over.
Defargo waves and looks as uncomfortable as you've seen him look, as if he doesn't really want to say or use what he wants to say. The voice comes out, and this time it's definitely a female voice, which is the same one he uses when he says, "Oh, look, what have you got there?" Except this time it's not inquisitive. And he says, "Don't you listen to what he says. You'll always be our son." And he makes an open sort of gesture as you're asking about where can you take them.
Ooh. Does that mean you may know a place that may be safe from Defargo?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
And shall we head back to town then? I mean, whatever the group decides to do, I'm more than happy to lay it all on the line, whatever we decide to do. This isn't really what we signed up for, is it, Exodus?
It isn't, no, but it's we need to make sure that this boy doesn't lose his mother. He's already lost his father.
Sure, yeah.
I was thinking if we don't have to necessarily start a fight to get Verla out, or trick them in, or convince them to let her out necessarily. There are only 3 of them in the marshal's office. If we can send the deputies with a false incident across town, it would buy us a little time.
I may have something that may help with that. I grew up around nature, so as such, I'm able to maybe kind of not exactly like Defago, but I can mimic certain animal sounds. Maybe in some part of town, I could maybe make the sound of like a large cat or large cat or something like that, and cause a bit of a panic whilst they're investigating it, looking around for this kind of beast in town. We're able to go and get the mother out.
That could work. I was just going to suggest we tell them there's been another murder and give them a location as far from the office as possible.
Oh, cool.
They might want to take them there, though. I mean, is it worth trying just the normal legal way first? Showing the evidence and seeing what happens?
Yes.
I think it's the best option. I just hope it doesn't backfire.
Well, in case it does backfire, I'm going to start secreting lockpicks in places that are unlikely to be searched, shall we say.
Okay. Can you give
I think we
me
should do it.
a deception roll, please? Okay. So I will note down that number and it will form part of the skill check. Okay.
I'm not able to give guidance on that, can I?
It's too late. He's already hidden them. So what are your plans? You're not far from Hope. I mean, you can cut through the estate of the Boyds if you want, or obviously go back the way you came. It will get you rapidly back into Hope. I'm assuming you're going to take the sensible option and not go through the estate.
Yeah, loop back around.
Yeah, you don't need to do anything. You know the way. You soon find yourself in Hope. And are you heading towards the marshal's office? Or are you attempting to set something up first?
Defago will mimic the wrapping gestures of those husks and point towards his shack and make a questioning look.
Yes, very good point. We probably want to take our evidence with us. But maybe only take one of them?
Good idea.
Wouldn't that be worth taking both of them? Like in case anyone happens upon Defago's shack whilst we're and hands it there, so it doesn't implicate us in it.
Well, I was thinking more that if the law confiscate the evidence, we still have some evidence.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. Yeah.
I agree. It's good thinking, Clyde.
Okay, so again, you head back to your shack, nicely described earlier. You collect one of the husk skins, And
Defargo will give it a good clean,
okay,
or make it mildly more dirty, just so it's not obvious where it was hidden.
okay.
Mhm.
So you do that. You're skilled in tanning, so it's relatively easy to not so much disguise it, but cover it up in one way or another. Takes you a little bit of time, but it is done. And then what?
Before we go in, who's heading this up?
To be honest, I would say the clerics, because this is an undead matter. I would say you probably want to try and blind them with science.
Okay.
I'm happy to make scared noises and say how
enough.
hideous they were, but obviously I've never seen undead before, and whether you have or not, I suspect they're more likely to think you have knowledge in this area.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
In that case, I and I we'll need a moment just before we go in, if that's okay with you guys.
Okay, which latrine are you going to?
So when we're right outside the office, when we're on the street
Yeah.
outside, I'll just take out my holy symbol.
Mm.
I'll close my eyes and I'll say a little prayer, and I will use my channel divinity,
Mm.
knowledge of the ages, to give myself proficiency with persuasion
Okay, very
for the
nice.
next 10 minutes.
Very good.
Which takes my persuasion from a -1 to a +1.
Well, there we go.
I'll cast guidance on Deximus as well.
Okay,
Okay.
you know that this is only going to last for a minute and
For the first minute,
for
yeah.
only one potential roll while you're concentrating
Yeah.
on it. It's not going to hold up for a huge amount of questioning, but every little sort of helps. Okay, you say your prayers in effect, and you walk into the
go.
sheriff's office. It's pretty much as you left it. The sheriff is now conscious, stubble. He's kind of looking down at some paperwork or sorts, mumbling to himself. The two deputies are actually playing cards at the moment. Just to remind you, Reginald Bennett is the marshal, and Taylor Coghill and Wright Coghill are the deputies. They instantly look up. You again. What is it now?
We have some urgent concerns regarding Mrs. Christie. We believe we have found evidence to suggest she is innocent.
The marshal instantly stops looking at the paperwork, slams his hand down and looks up. Oh, do you mean it's obvious that it is her? What is this nonsense?
And then
We believe that the blacksmith was smothered by an undead.
Ridiculous.
within the room, we found traces of undead flesh. We also found this upon examination of the blacksmith's corpse, and when we investigated, we went to speak to the stable master for reasons of our own, but in his bed area, we came across this, and I'll gesture to Defargo.
He will roll out the skin.
Oh, that is What is that a fake? Ah, that is
It almost
disgusting.
killed me.
Are you trying to
And
say
I show
this?
him the sort of injuries that I still have because I haven't healed myself yet, specifically in the case this particular conversation came up.
Okay, so what? She's a witch and she's summoned this thing?
No, I don't believe she had anything to do with this creature. I believe the creature came. We found evidence that Stable Master Hagen may have been involved in the creation of these creatures.
So, someone who looks after horses is now a stitcher, raiser of the dead.
Is that less likely than the wife of the blacksmith being?
Well, where's the
He may
connection?
not be the necromancer. The connection?
But yeah, well, this is not making any sense. I'm just interested why any of this is your business and why you went to speak with the stable master and why you were snooping in his barn or bedding area. Are you trying to hide something?
We were investigating the stable master because we were provided. Because when we asked Verla, knowing that she couldn't have committed the crime, she informed us of an altercation with the stable master, which we found suspicious.
Right, you didn't mention that before. Hmm.
Look,
No, you just get.
Marshall, if there are more of these things around, it could be bad for the town. I don't think we want undead roaming the streets at night, do we?
Of course not. Right. Lads, he says to the deputies, go and find Hagen, bring him in. We've got some questions to ask him. They look and sigh. They gather up the cards and the few coins that are playing for. They pointedly look at all of you creating work for them. And then they head out into the muddy streets.
Oh no, work! How terrible!
What's that?
Didn't say anything.
Thank you, Marshall. We appreciate your
Right.
speedy response.
Leave the evidence here. Certainly you two are up at the missionary, yes? None
Yes.
of you leave town until we get this sorted.
Of course. Is it possible to release the innocent woman you have in your cells? We will.
She's not innocent as yet. We have your words, some nonsense
I will
about
vouch
dead.
for her. We will keep her at the mission if you prefer that. I just think, for the sake of all involved, it would be best if her son had his mother until she is proven to be guilty of this crime.
And it is at this point you need to make that persuasion check. Guidance is still upon you, so you can have that as well. And you've got your bonuses. Oh.
It's not strong.
So you have a choice. That is just a fail. Just not a critical fail, but it's neither a success. And he kind of looks pointedly at you. This is something like I like to name. Consequences of choice. He says she can either remain in my custody safely, or if I release her into your custody and things go bad, I'll be bringing you in as well. Do you understand?
I do,
It is your
and I
choice.
accept.
Oh, really? You're a fool. He, though, stands up, gets his keys, unlocks the door to the cells, goes through. You see that Verla is actually there. He unlocks and says, you are not free. These gentlemen here are going to take care of you until we receive further evidence. If I was you, I would stay firmly in the missionary. She can't believe her eyes, and she, thank you, thanks so much, thank you. Is Elwood okay?
Let's go
Elwood
see
is
him
fine.
now.
She nods. She kind of almost can't believe it, and does that kind of, what do I do? Do I leave now? And then she takes a step out, thinking almost like it's a trick or a trap, or and the 5 of you leave the marshal's office. The marshal closes the doors, locks up, goes back to his seat, and he points at you, Pectinus. As I said, on your head be it. And you leave into the streets.
Can we still see the deputies?
The deputies are a distance away. They're not making any kind of great speed, but they are heading initially to the stables, which would be a sensible place to start.
Can I shadow them for a short while just to check that that's where they are indeed heading?
Yes. By shadow, I mean that you wish to do a stealth roll.
I would say yes.
So give me one of those, please. Yeah. Not even an opposed roll is needed for that. You very cleverly sort of move forward. Not quite critical success, but again, very strong. And you do indeed shadow them, and they do make inquiries at the stables. You don't really hear what they're saying. You're kind of a distance. They do go across to the barn and examine that. Then they begin to head back into town. They've not picked up the tracks or anything like that. They did have a scant look around, but they obviously either are not that bothered or not that skilled to do what the 4 of you have done.
So I shall report this back that it does look like the marshal and the deputies are actually doing their job. So if they are cultists, they're doing a damn good job of disguising the fact.
Yep, I mean, you get the impression that they perhaps are not part of this cult, but you also, especially you, Clyde, and you, Defargo, as being residents and spending some time here. If Boyd says do something, they'll no doubt do it, though. Just because they're not cultists doesn't mean that they don't want to rock the boat with the person that controls hope. You do catch up with the others, and you get to the missionary. The good news is Elwood is safely in there, and there is a heartwarming reunion between Elwood and his mother. She's just saying, how can we ever repay you? I mean, are we more or less free now? Do you think that once they know it's not me, we can go back to our lives? Is this... I can't believe it.
I have to say, Verla, I think Boyd's involved.
What, Mr. Boyd?
Elwood, why don't you and I go have a quick check of your recent studies? and I'll just sort of pull him to one side so he can't overhear any of this.
Okay, excellent stuff. Okay, what conversation do you want to have with her?
I'll fill her in on some of what we found, and I'll say that we followed Hagen's tracks and it led on to Boyd's land. And I really don't think people will be doing things on Boyd's land without Boyd knowing.
No, I've heard some stories, some bad stories, that people have gone missing, people that cross him or disagree with him. Didn't really believe that they were true. Maybe this place is where they take them. I don't know.
Maybe, but if Hagen's in with Boyd, I mean, Boyd won't want Hagen being brought to any sort of justice.
Yeah. Well, so what are you thinking?
Well, I think we need to decide whether Hope is the place for us anymore.
Well, I mean, we have the forge here, and all of our money is, well, that it is, and I mean, he's going to be buried here.
Well, at the moment we only have suspicions, but I think we all need to talk it through.
Okay, well, I mean, you've done us a great service today, and whatever you think is for the best. Should we stay here now, or can we go back to our home? What do we need to do?
Stay here for the time being.
You have
I'd
to
say stay here for the time being.
right. Okay. Okay.
Is there any sign that anybody is watching the hall at all?
That's a very good question. As you poke your head sort of out of the window, take a peek or whatever, give me a perception roll. Again, very good. At first, it's kind of almost like a degree of paranoia as people are walking past and sort of looking and watching, and it feels like the entirety of Hope, one way or the other, is observing the missionary in one way or another. It's overwhelming, but you breathe and focus and realize just because everybody's looking doesn't necessarily mean. And then you see someone across the way. You see someone that you do recognize. His name is Albert Russell. I'll just put that down for you. There we go, Albert Russell. And he's a ne'er-do-well. He's a drunk, a philanderer, but he's also one of Boyd's right-hand men. And he wasn't there when you entered, but now he's standing there kind of looking at the missionary. He hasn't seen you particularly.
I'll get everybody together, I think, and let them know. I think this is pretty clear evidence that Boyd is involved. And whatever happens, whatever evidence we have is probably now gone, and I don't think Verla's likely to get off.
Oh, Jesus.
Is that your god? That's a bit close to home, isn't it?
I meant to. Oh, you can. Oh, for goodness sake. What do you recommend we do? Scarpa or?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I think we shouldn't move immediately, or they'll be straight after us. Perhaps we leave at night? Do you think we have that long?
Do we have access to any sort of transport?
Only what you've got. Only what you have. You don't
So
have.
left foot and right foot.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, the missionaries got a cart, but it's the missionaries. You would be stealing from the missionary. There are people that have horses. There are the stables. Horse theft is, a capital offence. You would hang for such a thing up here.
Would we know how much a horse would cost?
It can be anywhere between a sort of 40, 50 for a cart horse up to 400 for a war horse, depending on the quality of the horse really and how well it's trained. A standard riding horse is round about between 70 and 100 gold. That's without the tack and harness and saddles and the like.
So we could maybe club together and get one horse for 6 of us. I suppose the obvious thing to do is maybe wait for night and hope nothing happens before then. What time of day is it now?
With everything that you've done going back and forth, it's coming into sort of mid to late afternoon. You are in the dredges, so in an hour or so, night will fall. It's not in the where it's light till late at the moment. It gets dark quite early.
Can I point out Albert to DeFargo
Yep,
to keep an eye on and maybe suggest there's a crawl space under the mission, isn't there?
there is
So
indeed.
maybe if we can remove some floorboards, we can get out without having to go near any of the doors or windows.
Yeah, this sounds almost like a Sound of Music excavation plan.
Perhaps. I assume Verla will want to get some of her personal effect from the blacksmith's house. I don't think it would be a bad idea for us to make it seem like we are insisting she stay at the mission so we can keep an eye on her.
Oh yeah.
Imagine so.
Yeah, I suppose as she's basically in the care of the 2 clerics, DeFargo and I could probably go and get a few possessions for her. Maybe if she has any money hidden away, we can pick that up for her as well.
She says, I mean, we have virtually nothing. We live to hand to mouth. The money comes in when we do jobs. We have some coin, but not much. You are more than welcome to it.
I think we were thinking more of getting it for you and Elwood.
Yes, you
before
will need money wherever we move to.
I have some jewelry that was given to me. I don't know whether I'd want to sell it, but needs must, I guess. It was given to me from Sull. And she says where it's kept in a sort of jewelry box in her room, if it's indeed still there.
And I think if Defargo and I go to the smithy and back, it will give us a good chance to scope the place out and see if there are any more watchers, or if we think it's currently just Albert.
Okay.
If,
So,
of course, Defargo is up for that.
Deal me in.
Um,
He looks quite angry and frustrated and will mutter, "Sometimes things just need killing."
could I roll an insight on the mother?
what for?
Just like to see if like she's got any sort, like if she's like looking at making a like a run for it, or like if she's eyeing anyone up in particular, or something like that.
Or if
Um,
she's a necromancer.
yeah, I mean, I guess you can give me an insight roll.
Werewolf.
Yeah, she's scared. She just lost her husband, who's been murdered by some kind of undead thing. She's seeing like this huge conspiracy building up around her. She's had better days. She's pleased to be free from the jail, but she doesn't hold out much hope about her future.
I'll go and sit with her and say, have you had any dealings with Boyd's?
No, not really. Nothing other than just the usual. Occasionally they needed some metal work done.
Okay. Any in particular have you, or was it just like assistants and foot soldiers who asked you for work?
No, it's just simple. We don't overly make weapons. We do pots and pans and horseshoes and ironwork.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Um,
What of this? What of this? Albert Russell.
okay. What are we going to do? What do you want? What do you want us to do?
I'm going to have a discussion with my compatriots, and I'll get back to you on this. Please stay calm and hold tight.
She says before you leave, look, this is going out of control. Just promise me you'll look after him, and I'll tell them that I did it, and that way you'll all be okay.
Absolutely not.
No. We can't do that.
No. We're all in too deep now. We're not having you throw away your life.
You don't need to be. It's you've put yourself out, and it's not fair.
We're in this deep. Is all to go to the end.
She nods. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
There is nothing for you to be sorry about, Bella.
Okay. So, please, just tell me what's the plan, and that is where we will leave it till next session, as things are escalating rapidly now. As that noose metaphorically at least, is beginning to tighten, not just around Verla, but around all of you now. Thank you very much, players. I hope you enjoyed that. You are up against it more than most of the others in Untold Chronicles. I mean, you could always just sell her out. That would make your life a lot easier. But we'll see what happens in Chapter 4. A big thank you to everybody that's watched as well. Thank you very, very much. I hope you've enjoyed that. Very role play, very dramatic tonight with decisions made and directions formed. Tomorrow night I shall be doing a kind of general chat stream, catching up with some of my plans, crazy ideas, etc., etc. And then we'll be doing Battles of Legend on Friday. So if you are a Twitch subscriber and you want to take part in that, come along, join in the fun as we finish off the first sequence against the Phoenix Born. In the meantime, stay safe. I hopefully will see you all very soon. Until we do, just take care and look after yourselves and everybody else.
Okie dokie. See you in a bit.
See ya.